I am officially horrified by the state of communication in the current landscape. And by communication, I do not mean language. So I recently got this voice message from an agency rep. This was for a brand campaign. And this voice note was 2 minutes long. 2 minutes. But even at 2x speed, it took this girl forever to get to the point. So many filler words, so much beating around the bush. And then once the voice note was over, I still had to text and ask her what she meant because it never got clear in the audio. Now, I'm not trying to shame this girl, but whether you speak in Hindi or English or any of the other 22 languages in the country, if you cannot clearly express your ideas, you need to watch this video. Poor communication has a ripple effect in every area of your life. Your work, your relationships, your social circle, which is why you will find that people who are good communicators tend to do so much better in work, in relationships, in life in general. This voice note made me realize that there is such a huge demand for good communicators, but there's hardly any supply. Today, we are going to change that, and we start by figuring out your current blockages. Now, this agency girl, she probably knew exactly what she wanted to say, but she still couldn't get the message out clearly. So she kept circling, she added a lot of filler words, there were a lot of pauses, until her point got completely lost. And she's not alone in this. This happens to so many people. And as a result, we feel like we are bad communicators because we just don't know what to say. The reality is that communication flows like water through a pipe, right? Let's say this is your tank of ideas, from where your info or your idea that you want to share comes. It flows through this pipe, which is your communication channel, and then it comes out from this tap, which is your mouth essentially. Now, if there is gunk or debris that is built up in this pipe, the water is going to have a very hard time coming out. In life, your fear of judgment, your anxiety about appearing stupid, your worry of embarrassment, these are the things that act like the gunk in your communication pipe. These basically choke your flow. So I'll give you a personal example. Up until class 5, class 6, I would consider myself an excellent communicator. I could speak what I wanted to, when I wanted to. I used to go up on stage. I used to participate in theater, in debate teams. I had no trouble saying what I wanted to. And then puberty came about. I also switched schools and I started noticing boys and boys started noticing me, and suddenly everything that I liked about myself turned into a worry, into an anxious thought. Am I too loud? Am I saying the right thing? Will this make that boy that I have a crush on dislike me? And these doubts, they started choking my flow of communication. Even though I knew what I wanted to say, the fear of being perceived in a certain way prevented me from freely doing so. In fact, I had to do a lot of work in high school in 11th and 12th to fix this issue. Had I not done that, I still would not have been an effective communicator today. And that is the thing. Somewhere along the way, life clogs our pipes. We start filtering ourselves because we are scared of being too much or too little. So here is what I want you to do. You're going to take out 5-10 minutes today and trace your blockages. You're going to ask yourself, when did I start holding back in communication? Was it a teacher who mocked me? Maybe a friend who made fun of me? A relationship that made me feel small? Whatever it is, try and think back to the time that you stopped communicating clearly and write that down, because awareness is step 1. Now, most people try and fix their communication by learning fancy vocabulary, copying confident speakers, and I tell you to do this too, because it helps. But if the blockage in your pipe is not cleared, doing this is like putting a band-aid on top of the wound or just keeping the tap open hoping that water will come out. It's not going to stick. You have to fix the foundation first. And only once you start clearing that gunk, that fear, that overthinking, that what if they judge me mentality, does your real voice finally come through. You stop speaking from a place of fear and you start speaking from a place of flow. That is the foundation of being disgustingly well spoken. Not more words, not fancy words, just less fear. Now, once you fix this fear, this hesitation, the next step is fixing your intention, because even clear communication fails when you are doing it with the wrong goal in mind. And I'll give you a good example of this. I have this friend who is in his late 20s. He's fairly successful, but he has terrible luck in relationships. And earlier, I used to pity him a little. But the more I observed his behavior, the more I realized that the reason he fails to get a second date 90% of the times is because of his broken communication. Every potential love interest that he starts talking to, his intention is not to connect, but to impress. He's constantly trying to prove to that poor girl that he's rich, he's smart, he's successful, he's interesting enough to be liked. So when you listen to him as a third person, you find that his conversations sound like him giving that poor girl his resume. They're well worded, but they are completely soulless. And here is the thing. You cannot connect with someone while you are performing for them. Because the moment that you're focused on how you are being perceived, you stop being present. Your conversations become egocentric. They're all about showing off how smart you are, how funny you are, or how interesting you are. And when you try to force people to see this, they sense it. They sense the performance. And instead of drawing them in, you basically just push them away because they don't want to deal with an egocentric person. But the best communicators in the world, the ones who make people feel instantly at ease, feel instantly connected. They are never chasing validation. They are curious people. They ask real questions. They want to connect with the person in front of them. One of the best conversations that I've had in life was with this group of German tourists that my friend and we met at a hostel in Thailand. They hardly knew any English. It was very, very broken. We did not know a word of German, but we sat there talking for 6+ hours and we left as friends in the end. How is that possible? Because no one was performing. We were all communicating with the intention of connecting. And this stands true for every scenario. Whether it is one-on-one communication, whether it is conversations in a group, whether it is public speaking, whether you're standing on a podium in a meeting giving a presentation. Last year, or I don't know, last to last year, I gave a talk on manifestation for Pinterest. And I hadn't gone up and spoken on stage for a while, okay? So going into this, I was nervous about what people would think and how I would appear. Would I be confident? But before going on stage, I reminded myself that the only thing I want to do here, the only reason that I'm here is to help people realize the power of manifestation so that they can use it to better their own lives. So I went on with that intention and I spoke for a few minutes about my experiences with manifestation and the crowd was hooked. I had goosebumps while I was speaking and they had goosebumps while they were listening to me. All because my intention was to connect with them, not to impress them, not to prove a point. There was no perfect grammar. I did not memorize a speech before going. It was just the right intention. Now, if you've been the kind of person who prioritizes performative communication, I'm not gonna lie, it is going to take some time to break out of that loop, but it really helps to set your intention before entering a conversation or before you go speak in front of a bunch of people. Just remind yourself that you want to connect with very real human beings. And the fact of the matter is, connection does not require elaborate shenanigans. It actually starts with small talk. Most people treat small talk like this boring opening act at a concert, right? You just sit there waiting for the main event. But you have to remember that every real meaningful connection starts somewhere small. Even your best friend did not just become your best friend overnight. It probably started with an awkward, "So what do you do?" Or, "So do you want to come play with me?" The problem is that most people approach small talk like an interview, not an interaction. They go in with these pre-planned lines, robotic questions, and zero sense of being present in that conversation. But small talk is not about saying the perfect thing or being witty. It's not about showing off or trying to be funny. It is just about making the person in front of you feel like a human being that you have the tiniest bit of interest in. And the best way to do this is through active observation. You just need to observe your surroundings. You just need to observe the person that you're interacting with. So put your phone down, look around, notice the little things about the person you're talking to, like what they're doing, what drink are they holding, what are they wearing, how they seem to feel in that moment, like what the expressions on their face are, and then make a simple, curious observation that opens the door for a response instead of demanding a response. For instance, a lot of awkward communication in social settings starts with close-ended questions like, "What are you drinking? How do you know this person?" And the person in front of you might give you an answer, but the answer is like a one-word response. And they give it, and then the conversation dies. So instead of doing that, try saying something that you have observed out loud. Like, "Oh, that looks like a fun drink. It's pink in color." Mine's just a simple Diet Coke. And when you do this, when you don't force the other person to respond, this basically invites the other person to talk about their own experience, in this case, the drink that they're holding, and then you build the conversation from there. Or you could say something like, I absolutely love how they've done the decor here. And this then invites the other person to give in their perspective for this observation that you've made. It doesn't have to be directly about this person. It can be about the surrounding that you both are in. I just had a small talk moment with this girl in Starbucks a few weeks ago. I was waiting to get my coffee. She was standing on the side. She was waiting for her order to come. And she had a beautiful mehndi design on her hands. I just looked at it. I had been watching mehndi designs all day on Pinterest for my own mehndi. And I just went up to her and I told her that her mehndi looks absolutely lovely. Such a unique design. And this opened up an entire dialogue about where she got it done. We both talked about our wedding dates. She let me click a photo of the design and she even gave me the mehndi guy's number. I wasn't really looking to do any of these things. I was genuinely just complimenting her on her mehndi, and because it was in the front of my mind, I had been researching mehndi designs. There was no ulterior motive and it led to a beautiful interaction. When you do this, you are not demanding a response, you are inviting a response. You are showing that you noticed something about the other person. And that psychologically is one of the fastest ways to make somebody feel seen, make somebody feel comfortable. And the best part is that it takes the pressure off of you as well. You don't have to be charming, you don't have to come up with clever lines, you just need to be present. So here's a simple thing that I want you to try. Next time that you're out or you're in a circle of friends, notice one small thing about someone and give them a genuine compliment. Worst case, they just say thank you and move on. Best case, you've made a genuine connection. The kind that most people miss because they are too busy rehearsing what they're going to say next. Once you master this, small talk stops being this awkward performance. In fact, small talk becomes the anchor, the hook through which you form first impressions on people. You will notice that people rarely remember everything that you say in a conversation, but they always remember how you made them feel. That is called anchoring. In psychology, the anchoring bias means people rely heavily on the first piece of information they receive when they are forming impressions or judgments. So the moment you open your mouth, you are already setting an anchor in somebody else's mind about your confidence, about your warmth, your intelligence, your energy. So if you start a conversation with hesitation, with too many filler words, with low energy, that becomes the anchor through which they judge all future communication with you. Like, I got frustrated with this girl from the agency who couldn't get her point across. But if you start your communication with clarity, with warmth, with intention, that becomes the anchor. And then everything you say after that gets filtered through that positive first impression. This is the same reason why the first 3 seconds of a reel matter so much. They decide whether somebody keeps listening or scrolls away. And just like good small talk, good anchors don't come from being clever. They come from being observant. When you make the right observation during small talk, you instantly give someone something to associate you with. That is the real power of anchoring. So let's say that you are at a party, you notice somebody is wearing sneakers that look completely out of place with formal outfits, and you go up to them and say something like, "You're the only one here who looks like they're ready for an escape plan." That tiny moment of humor becomes your anchor. The next time they see you, they will remember that light, playful energy that you interacted with. Or let's say that you're in a work setting and you notice your colleague's coffee mug has something like "World's okayest employee" written on it. You can smile and, compliment them on the mug. That mug's brutally honest. I respect it. That's it. Now you are anchored as the person who sees people, not just talks to them. Once you learn to use anchoring, your communication starts working even after you have stopped talking. People start associating you with clarity, with confidence, with warmth, and that is how you stand out in a world full of noise. Now, once you have learned how to make small talk and create good anchors, the next step is knowing when and how to use them. Because great communication isn't just about what you say, it's about saying it at the right time, in the right tone, to the right audience. You can deliver the most confident, articulate sentence in the world, but if the energy in the room does not match, it is not going to land. That is why the best communicators are also emotional detectives. They read the room before they speak, and you can do this by paying attention to subtle energy cues. The energy. Is the group loud, laughing, or calm and reflective? The body language. Are people leaning in or they're busy checking their phones? The pace. Are people moving fast? Are they joking? Are they interrupting? or are they taking turns and thinking before they speak? Reading these cues helps you match the emotional temperature of the room. It's like tuning an instrument before you start playing. You are aligning your tone before you contribute to whatever is happening around you. For example, if you walk into a meeting where everybody looks stressed and you start cracking jokes, it is going to feel tone deaf. But if you acknowledge the tension with a small empathetic line like, "Looks like we've all had a long morning, huh?" You've immediately grounded yourself in that moment. Or let's say in a social setting, if the vibe is chill and conversational and you walk in guns blazing with your most high energy story, it might overwhelm people. But if you start by mirroring their energy, like a warm smile, a light observation, you blend into that group effortlessly. Reading the room is really about reading people. It is noticing energy shifts, emotional undercurrents, and unspoken boundaries. And once you master that, your communication becomes adaptive. It fits anywhere with anyone. Because being well spoken is not always about saying the perfect thing. It is about saying the right thing in the right way at the right time. So let's say you've been mastering all of these things and you've been reading the room right. What if you get into a situation where you do say something awkward? You didn't read the room right for once and said something weird. Do you ramble and then try to explain why you said what you said? Or do you take a pause, a moment to compose yourself and then decide if you want to say something or not? While most people are going to pick option B, most of us in real life tend to do option A. In most scenarios, silence makes people panic. The moment there's even a 2-second pause, somebody rushes to fill it in. Because somewhere we feel like we are losing control. But the truth is that silence does not make you look nervous. It actually makes you look composed. Think about the most confident communicators that you've ever seen. They don't rush their words. They pause, they breathe, they let their sentences land. Even in real life, you'll notice that someone who speaks calmly, who speaks slowly with gaps between their words, manages to get everybody to listen. That is not because they have a deep voice or they have the perfect accent. It is because they're comfortable with silence. When you pause, you signal confidence. You show that you're thinking before you speak, and psychologically, that makes people trust you more. So how exactly do you master silence? How do you master the pause? For the next 30 days, I want you to do this exercise. You're going to record yourself talking to the camera for 1 minute straight without using a single filler word. This is a trend that is also going viral on Instagram and TikTok. If you say or if you say something like or any filler word that you end up using, you have to start that 1 minute timer again. The idea is for you to speak for 1 minute straight without using any filler words. You can stay silent, you can pause to compose your thoughts, but you cannot use filler words. And it is so much harder than it sounds, but that's the point. The goal is not perfection, it is awareness. And this one thing will improve your communication, your articulation like nothing else. And with that, let's do a quick recap on how to become a master communication. If you've watched till here, you already know that being well spoken has nothing to do with big words or perfect grammar. It is about clarity, connection, and composure. So first, you are going to figure out what is blocking your clear communication. You want to clear the mental gunk of fear and self-doubt that chokes your flow. Then you are going to start prioritizing connection. Basically, whenever you're talking to someone, you have to stop doing it for the sake of validation and you have to start doing it for the sake of connection. After that, I want you to master small talk. Not the fake, forced, trying to be witty kind of small talk, but the kind that comes from noticing people and making them feel seen, making observations about people. After that, you are going to learn to anchor your communication, to leave small, memorable impressions through genuine observations that make people remember you. Then it is time to read the room, because communication does not happen in isolation. It is about tuning into the energy of the room that you are present in. And finally, you are going to get comfortable with silence. Pauses are the mark of someone who is truly confident, truly calm, and in control. When you start practicing all of these, you will start to notice that your words carry more weight, your presence feels more magnetic, and people actually listen to you, and you don't have trouble getting words out, because communication is not about saying a lot, it's about saying what matters with intention. And for the final takeaway exercise, the final homework that I have for you guys, for the next 30 days, I want you to record yourself in front of the camera 1 minute straight, speaking without any filler words. Every time you add a filler word, your 1 minute timer starts again. And when you watch these videos back, you will notice your habits, your filler words, your tone, your pacing, your confidence, your body language. And every day you do this, you'll improve a little bit more. At the end of the 30 days, you'll realize you don't actually sound like your old self. You feel confident when you're speaking because your communication finally starts to flow. And that was it for this video. If you want to improve your communication further, I highly recommend you go check out this video next because YouTube says you'll love it. And I'm going to see you guys very, very soon in the next one. Bye.